Picture this. It's mid-July.
Oh, the worst time of year.
Right. You're sitting in your living room, and it is just absolutely sweltering. The thermostat says, like, 78, but, I mean, it feels like a total sauna in there.
Yeah, you're just sweating it out.
Exactly. And your air conditioning unit is just groaning out in the backyard, just struggling. So you finally cave, right? You call a technician out.
As you should.
And after, a few minutes of poking around the unit, they wipe their brow and give you the supposedly good news. They say, you just need a quick refrigerant top-off, be a few $100 and you're good to go.
It sounds like a massive relief, doesn't it?
It really does.
I mean, it sounds like the easiest, fastest fix to a miserable summer problem. You write the check, the cold air comes back, and you just go on with your life.
But what if I told you that quick fix is actually, it's one of the most expensive myths in homeownership?
It's a huge crap.
It is. So today's deep dive is built on some incredibly eye-opening field notes and diagnostic procedures from Dave Hartzell.
Yeah, Hartzell.
He's a master HVAC technician with, get this, 45 years of experience.
Wow.
Yeah, he operates out of Kingfisher, Oklahoma, running Hartzell's Heat and Air.
I mean, 45 years working in that central Oklahoma heat. That is it's a brutal crucible for any air conditioning system.
Oh, absolutely.
If there is a way a condenser can fail, or a way a cooling loop can break down, he has seen it, he's diagnosed it, and he's fixed it.
He absolutely has. And the mission for our deep dive today is to take all of that hard-earned field knowledge and completely debunk this expensive refrigerant top-off myth.
Right.
We're going to empower you to actually decode the specific warning signs your AC system is giving you before it just completely dies.
Which is so important.
But okay, let's unpack this for a second. I have to play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
Doesn't everything mechanical run out of juice eventually? I mean, cars need regular oil changes. Tires lose air over time just from, driving down the highway. Why wouldn't a really hardworking AC naturally just use up its refrigerant over a few summers of heavy use?
It's a completely logical assumption.
Yeah.
It really is. And truthfully, it's exactly why so many homeowners just willingly fall for the top-off pitch.
Right. It makes sense on the surface.
Exactly. But what's fascinating here is the fundamental physics of how an air conditioner is actually built. According to Hartzell's notes, an AC system is not like a car engine consuming oil or, burning fuel.
Okay.
It is a completely sealed loop. You really have to think of it as an enclosed, impenetrable vault made of copper tubing, brazed metal joints, compressor seals, the indoor evaporator coil, and the outdoor condenser coil.
So it's essentially a closed circuit. Nothing goes in, nothing comes out. The gas is just trapped in there forever.
Precisely. The refrigerant is never actually consumed or burned away. It simply circulates. Yeah, it absorbs heat from the air inside your house, carries it outside, and releases it into the backyard, and then does it over and over again in a continuous loop.
Wow.
So if a system is perfectly charged on day one of its installation, it stays perfectly charged for its entire lifespan.
Really?
Yeah. And for a quality unit like a Train or an Amana sitting out in the Kingfisher backyard, you're looking at a 12 to 18-year lifespan.
12 to 18 years without ever needing a single drop of refrigerant added. I mean, that completely changes the paradigm.
It really should. It should change how every single homeowner looks at their unit. The core truth you have to internalize is this. If your system is low on refrigerant, it's not because it was used up.
Right.
It means there's a physical hole in that sealed vault. You have a leak, period.
If the vault is breached, adding more treasure to the vault doesn't fix the hole.
Exactly. It just delays the inevitable.
So now that we know the system is supposed to be this impenetrable sealed loop, how do you actually know the vault has been breached before the whole system just completely dies on you? Because, the machine isn't exactly going to send you a text message.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But it does communicate through its performance. And the very first signs of a leak are actually completely invisible to the naked eye.
Which brings us to the most common scenario Hartzell deals with in his field notes.
Right.
He says his phone just rings off the hook when a house simply won't reach its set point on a hot afternoon. And this is the part that drives people crazy.
Oh, yeah.
The AC seems to work perfectly fine in the morning or, back in May when it wasn't that hot. But by 4 p.m. in late July, it just surrenders. Why does it do that?
It really comes down to the physics of what we call peak load. Think of the refrigerant gas as the system's lifting capacity.
Okay.
If your system is, say, 10% low on its refrigerant charge, it still has enough muscle to cool your house when it's a moderate 78 degrees outside. Right. It simply doesn't have to work that hard to maintain the temperature.
I see where you're going. It's like trying to move a sofa. If it's just a small love seat, you can probably move it even if you pulled a muscle in your back.
Yeah, exactly.
But if someone asks you to move a grand piano, you physically just can't do it.
That is a great way to look at it. When the afternoon sun is beating down on your roof and it
Yeah.
hits 95 or 100 degrees outside, your house reaches its peak heat load.
Makes sense.
The system needs 100% of its lifting capacity to move that much heat from inside to outside. If it is missing refrigerant, it lacks the physical mass to keep up.
Wow.
Hartzell gives a very specific example in his notes. He says you'll see the indoor temperature comfortably sitting at 74 degrees in the morning.
Yeah.
But as the afternoon heat builds, the thermostat slowly creeps to 76, then 78, and hits 80 degrees by 4 p.m. And it never comes back down until the sun actually sets.
That slow, agonizing creep upward on the thermostat. I think we've all watched that happen and just hoped it was a fluke.
Oh, for sure.
But Hartzell points out that by the time you actually notice this afternoon lag, the system isn't just a tiny bit low. It is usually 20 to 30% low on refrigerant. It's been bleeding out for a while.
Which means the system is desperately trying to compensate for that missing capacity by running constantly. It literally never cycles off.
And that leads directly to the next invisible sign, which hits you right in the wallet.
Yes, it does.
Because a low-charge system is running longer to do the exact same amount of work, it is dramatically increasing its amp draw. Now, for those of us who aren't electricians, what exactly does amp draw mean in this context?
So amp draw is basically just the measurement of how much electrical current the unit is pulling from your house's electrical panel to keep the fan and the compressor motor spinning.
Okay.
Under normal conditions, an AC pulls a very specific, steady amount of current. But when it's starving for refrigerant, those motors have to run constantly, fighting against really poor pressures.
Right.
That extra physical strain translates directly to pulling more electricity.
And Hartzell shares the specific math on this, which is wild. Let's say last year's July electric bill was $240.
Okay.
This year, it's $295. You haven't changed your household habits, you haven't added new appliances, the thermostat is set to the exact same number, but the bill jumped over 20%.
That's significant.
Yeah, that extra $55 is the cost of your AC working way too hard just to survive.
Now, I should add a critical nuance here.
Okay?
That bill jump is a massive red flag, obviously. But by itself, it might not definitively be a leak.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A huge spike in electricity could also mean you have a severely dirty condenser coil that just can't breathe. Or it could be a failing capacitor.
Wait, a capacitor, what is that doing?
A capacitor is essentially a heavy-duty cylindrical battery that lives inside the outdoor unit.
Okay.
It stores up a massive jolt of electricity to kickstart the fan and the compressor every single time the AC turns on. If that capacitor is dying, the system struggles to start, which spikes your electrical usage. But when you combine a 20% bill jump with that afternoon temperature lag you mentioned earlier, that is the classic invisible signature of a leaking system.
So the house is getting warm and the electric bills are going up. If you ignore those invisible signs, all that extra strain and poor pressure has to have a physical side effect on the machine itself, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So let's talk about the tangible clues you can look for with your own eyes when you go out and inspect the unit. Hartzell says the most jarring sign is finding ice on the big copper line outside or on the indoor coil.
Yes.
Now, I have to admit, I'm a bit confused by this.
How so?
Well, if there is literally a block of ice on the machine in the middle of summer, doesn't that mean the system is cooling, like, too well? How does losing its cooling juice make things freeze?
I know, it seems totally counterintuitive. You'd think losing refrigerant means losing cold. But it is a perfect demonstration of refrigeration physics.
Okay, lay it on me.
Here's what happens inside that copper tubing. When the system loses refrigerant, the pressure inside the suction line drops, and basic thermodynamics tells us that lower pressure equals lower temperature.
Oh, okay, so the gas inside the pipe expands too much, making the metal abnormally cold?
Yes. Specifically, the low pressure causes the temperature of the indoor evaporator coil to drop below freezing, so below 32 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow.
Now think about the warm return air from your house blowing across that freezing cold metal coil. That household air has natural humidity in it.
Oh, I see. It's like a glass of ice water on a humid day. The condensation builds up on the outside of the glass.
Exactly like that. But instead of dripping down as water, because the coil is below freezing, that condensation turns directly into frost on the metal fins.
Oh.
Yeah. And as the system keeps running and running because the thermostat is demanding cold air, that frost acts as an insulator. It prevents the coil from absorbing any more heat.
Which makes it worse.
Right. It creates a vicious feedback loop until the entire indoor coil becomes a solid block of ice, which completely blocks the airflow.
Unbelievable.
The fan is blowing, but no air can get through the ice block. So the homeowner feels warm air coming out of the vents or just no air at all and assumes the AC is completely dead.
When in reality, the leak just caused the system to freeze itself shut. That is a wild chain reaction.
It really is.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because these leaks actually start leaving a physical footprint that you don't need a degree in thermodynamics to spot. Let's talk about the auditory evidence. Hartzell notes that bigger leaks actually hiss or bubble.
They do, yeah, because the system is highly pressurized.
Okay.
If you have a pinhole leak in the coil tube, you can hear it hissing when the system is turned off, as the pressure tries to equalize and pushes the remaining gas out of that tiny hole.
Oh, so it sounds almost identical to air slowly escaping from, like, a bicycle tire. And his notes say that if the leak is at a connection point, like a loose flare nut or a service valve, an HVAC tech can spray it with soapy water and literally watch it blow bubbles. What are those parts exactly?
So a flare nut is just a specific type of threaded brass connector that clamps two pieces of copper pipe together.
Okay.
And the service valve is the little brass port on the side of the outdoor unit where the technician hooks up their diagnostic gauges.
Ah, gotcha.
Because those parts involve threads and moving pieces, they are prime suspects for a leak. The soapy water trick is an old-school method, but, it works flawlessly to reveal the escaping gas.
And then there is the visual evidence, which is something any homeowner listening right now can check for themselves. Refrigerant gas is completely invisible, obviously, but it doesn't travel alone inside those pipes. It carries oil with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a crucial detail. The compressor needs continuous lubrication to survive, just like a car engine.
Right.
So the system uses specialized oil, usually PEG or POE oil, that actually travels suspended within the refrigerant gas itself.
That's wild.
It's almost like blood carrying oxygen through your veins.
So if there is a hole big enough for the gas to get out, the oil just gets pushed out right along with it.
Exactly.
Hartzell says you should walk around your outdoor unit and look for a brown or dark green oily streak. Like, check those brazed copper joints, check the service valves we just talked about, and look for oil pooling on the concrete pad under the condenser.
And what's brilliant about that from a homeowner's perspective is that you do not need an expensive electronic leak sniffer to see it.
Right, you can just see it with your eyes.
The oil is the physical footprint of the leak. If you see that dark, sticky, oily film, you don't have to wonder if you have a leak anymore. You have absolute proof.
So we've covered the afternoon temperature lags, the spiked bills, the block of ice, the hissing, and the oil slicks.
That's a lot of sign.
It is. But what happens if you ignore all of these warnings? Say you just keep turning the thermostat down, hoping it'll magically fix itself. That takes us into what Hartzell calls the danger zone, the system's final desperate cry for help. And this is all about a symptom called short cycling.
Man, short cycling is a terrible sound.
Yeah.
It is literally a mechanical system begging for mercy.
Hartzell explains that a healthy, normally charged system at peak heat load should run for about 10 to 20 minutes at a time. It turns on, cools the house, turns off.
Right.
But if your system is turning on, running for just 4 or 5 minutes, and then abruptly shutting down with a heavy clunk, you have a massive problem. I'm guessing this has to do with the compressor taking a beating?
It does. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this short cycling is actually a built-in survival mechanism.
Really? Survival?
Yeah. Remember how we talked about the refrigerant carrying oil to lubricate the compressor and all's acting as the medium to absorb heat?
Yes, the blood and oxygen analogy.
Right. Well, the compressor, the literal heart of the outdoor unit, relies on that returning cool refrigerant gas to keep itself from overheating.
Oh, I see.
If the gas is leaked out and isn't returning, the compressor starts getting dangerously hot, incredibly fast.
So it's basically running dry and practically burning itself up.
Yes. So modern systems are equipped with a low-pressure safety switch.
Okay.
When the internal pressure drops past a critical threshold, this switch forcefully trips and instantly kills the power to the compressor to save its life.
Wow.
The compressor shuts down, sits there for a few minutes to cool off, the internal pressure slightly equalizes, and then the thermostat tells it to try again.
And then
4 minutes later, the safety switch trips it off again. On, off, on, off.
it's literally the system shouting, "It is unsafe to run."
That is exactly what it's doing. And the sheer violence of a compressor starting and stopping every 5 minutes takes a massive electrical and mechanical toll.
I can imagine.
If you ignore that short cycling and just let it keep stuttering for days or weeks, the compressor will eventually die from the heat stress.
Jeez.
You've just turned a completely fixable leak into a catastrophic multi-thousand-dollar failure.
So what does this all mean for you, the homeowner, when the technician finally arrives in your driveway? We have to talk about the industry's dirty secret.
We do.
The battle between the Band-Aid and the actual cure. Why do so many technicians keep selling these cheap top-offs instead of just fixing the root problem we just spent 10 minutes talking about?
It's a great question.
Hartzell shares an infuriating story in his notes. He had a homeowner who proudly told him they paid $380 2 summers ago to add some freon, and now here they are, sweating in July with the exact same problem.
It is incredibly frustrating, and it really comes down to strict economics and, frankly, the path of least resistance.
Tell me about it.
Let's look at the financial math. A refrigerant top-off, where a tech just hooks up a hose and pumps gas into the machine without actually looking for the whole costs, anywhere between $200 and $600, depending on the system and the type of refrigerant.
So let's call it an average of $400 a summer.
Now compare that to doing it the right way, a real, thorough leak search. Let's use Hartzell's pricing as a regional benchmark for central Oklahoma.
Okay.
His notes show a $111 diagnostic fee plus 1 to 2 hours of intense detection work.
Which means what exactly?
This means the tech is breaking out the electronic sniffers, maybe injecting UV dye or isolating sections of copper and pressure testing them with nitrogen gas. The total cost to find the leak usually lands between $300 and $500.
Wait a second. So the cost of a comprehensive hours-long leak search is actually roughly the same amount as just blindly topping it off once.
They are in the exact same financial ballpark for that single visit.
Wow.
But the profound difference is the long-term outcome. Finding the leak ends the problem. You locate the hole, you quote the repair, and the bleeding stops.
Right.
Copying off the system means you are agreeing to pay a $400 ransom every single year until the unit completely breaks down.
It's a recurring, expensive subscription to a broken air conditioner.
Pers-
Hartzell is fiercely against this. He notes that he fundamentally refuses to top off a system without finding the leak first. He's got a strict policy.
Good for him.
And this isn't just a personal preference, right? It's backed by federal law. EPA Section 608 mandates that technicians are supposed to fix leaks that exceed certain size thresholds, specifically to stop greenhouse gases from just constantly venting into the atmosphere.
It is entirely a matter of professional ethics and honest work. Diagnosing the disease rather than just treating the symptom.
Right.
When a tech just adds gas and leaves, they are giving the homeowner a false sense of security. The homeowner thinks the problem is solved.
Until it isn't.
Exactly. When it breaks again next year, they just assume AC units need an annual fill-up. It normalizes a broken system.
But, and we have to be completely honest here with you listening, finding the leak is great, but fixing it isn't always a walk in the park. Sometimes diagnosing the disease means delivering some painful news.
Well, definitely.
And this brings us to the hard truths of HVAC repair. Because once a tech like Hartzell finds that leak, you as the homeowner have to make a really tough choice. Let's start with a term from his notes that sounds absolutely bizarre, formicary corrosion.
Oh, yes.
It sounds like a colony of ants is attacking the metal. What is this?
It certainly sounds like an insect problem, and ironically, the damage looks exactly like a microscopic ant trail under a magnifying glass.
Really?
Yeah. Between roughly 2008 and 2018, the industry shifted to a new refrigerant called R410A, and manufacturers had a massive, widespread issue with the indoor evaporator coils.
The coils that sit inside the house, usually in the attic or a closet.
Yes. The copper tubing in those coils was reacting with VOC's volatile organic compounds.
Okay.
These are completely normal gases present in the air inside your house. They off-gas from everyday things like cleaning products, new carpets, or the formaldehyde used in pressed wood furniture.
So just normal household air was chemically attacking the metal inside the AC unit.
Yes. The VOCs reacted with the natural condensation moisture we talked about earlier, and the copper itself. It created these microscopic, labyrinth-like ant trail leaks all over the coil.
That sounds impossible to fix.
It is. You cannot just patch a microscopic maze of holes with a welding torch. Fixing formicary corrosion means replacing the entire indoor coil assembly.
Oh boy.
And depending on your region, that runs anywhere from $1,800 to $3,200.
Ouch. That is a massive repair bill for something caused by new carpet smell.
It is. And this is where the honest conversation between the homeowner and the technician really has to happen.
Yeah.
If your system is only 6 years old, spending $2,000 to replace the coil makes financial sense. The rest of the system has a lot of life left.
Sure.
But if that unit is 15 years old, that's a really hard pill to swallow. Sinking $3,000 into a machine that is at the absolute end of its life expectancy is usually a bad investment.
And the indoor coil isn't even the hardest place to fix a leak.
Not at all.
Hartzell's notes detail an even more complicated scenario line set leaks. The line set is the long bundle of copper pipes that connects the indoor unit to the outdoor unit.
Right.
And a lot of times, these pipes are literally buried inside your walls, or worse, poured right into the concrete slab foundation of your house.
And those hidden pipes can develop leaks due to underground corrosion or just the natural settling and shifting of the house foundation over the years.
And fixing that means you aren't just paying an HVAC guy. You are cutting open the drywall in your living room or renting a jackhammer to break through your concrete foundation to reach the pipe.
Which is a nightmare.
Hartzell estimates a new line set replacement runs $1,200 to $2,500. And that is just for the HVAC side, not counting the thousands you might spend on drywall or flooring repair.
Which is exactly why Hartzell points out that if a system is over 10 years old and has a leak buried in the wall or under the slab, that is the exact moment a good, honest technician stops talking about repair and initiates the replacement conversation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You do not tear your house apart for a dyeing machine.
So we have covered a massive amount of ground today. Let's recap the core takeaways for you, the homeowner. First, your AC is a sealed vault. Refrigerant is never consumed like gas in a car.
Never.
If you are low, you have a physical leak. Second, watch out for the progression of the big six signs.
Right. Keep an eye on these.
The house lagging in the afternoon heat, a 20% spiked electric bill, a frozen coil blocked with ice, hissing or bubbling sounds, dark, oily films on the copper joints, and finally, the dreaded short cycling where the unit turns off every 5 minutes.
Any single one of those symptoms is a red flag. 2 or more is an absolute guarantee that you are losing refrigerant.
And if you happen to be in central Oklahoma around Kingfisher, Canadian, Garfield, Logan, Blaine, Major, or Northwest Oklahoma County, Dave Hartzell and his team at Hartzell's Heat and Air are a prime example of the gold standard in this industry. 45 years of experience, and more importantly, they adhere to that strict no Band-Aids policy. They will find the leak, give you the honest math, and let you make the choice.
Which is all you can ask for.
If you're local, you can find them at 405-375-4822 or hartzellsheetair.com. For everyone else listening across the globe, look for a technician in your area who shares that exact same philosophy.
You know, this raises an important question, something slightly philosophical to chew on about home ownership and consumer psychology.
I like where this is going. What are you thinking?
Well, think about it. Why are we so willing to accept top-offs and quick recurring fixes in our homes that we would absolutely never accept when it comes to our own physical health?
Oh, that's a good point.
Imagine if you went to a doctor feeling totally exhausted and the doctor told you, well, you're constantly losing blood. We don't know from where. Let's just give you a transfusion every July and see how it goes.
You would fire that doctor immediately. You would demand to know where the bleeding was coming from and how to stitch the wound closed.
You would demand a real diagnosis. So why do we let the HVAC industry put a $400 financial Band-Aid on a bleeding house year after year?
That's crazy when you put it like that.
It really challenges us to completely rethink our relationship with home maintenance. Stop treating the symptom, find the wound, and demand a real cure.
That is a brilliant way to look at it. Stop letting your house bleed out. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you feel incredibly informed, empowered to decode the signs your AC is giving you, and ready to demand the right fix this summer. Stay cool out there.